Pre-eclampsia is a potentially dangerous pregnancy complication characterised by high blood pressure. It usually begins after 20 weeks of pregnancy in a woman whose blood pressure has previously been normal. It can come on without warning and there may be no symptoms. So how can you prevent this condition that can have serious complications for you and your baby? Well, stay tuned and I'll give you my favourite dietary tips. Hi, I'm Melanie McGrice, a fertility and prenatal dietitian. I help women have healthy babies and give their babies the best start in life by optimising your diet when it most counts, when their genes are being programmed during their first 1,000 days. In today's episode, we're discussing the impact of nutrition on the risk of developing preeclampsia, and I'm going to share with you my top 3 foods for preventing this condition. But first, let me tell you what doesn't work. Although you may have read that you should have a low salt diet to help prevent preeclampsia, whoever told you that is wrong. As dietitians, we do often recommend that people reduce their salt intake to prevent high blood pressure, and preeclampsia is a form of high blood pressure, so it does make sense that it would be effective. But research from clinical trials has found that restricting salt intake does not help to reduce your risk of preeclampsia. Now, this doesn't mean that you can have as much salt as you like, but you don't need to avoid it altogether either. So, what are my top 3 foods? Well, drum roll please. Number 3 goes to broccoli. Now, the reason that I've chosen broccoli is that it's rich in folate. Now, I have to admit that I haven't seen any studies undertaken on the impact of broccoli on preventing preeclampsia, but emerging research suggests that adequate folic acid may help to reduce the risk of preeclampsia, and broccoli is definitely rich in that. Now, second place goes to salmon. Although the research on the impact of omega-3 fats remains inconclusive, there is some research to suggest that long-chain omega-3 found in salmon may help to prevent preeclampsia, and it's definitely not going to hurt. Salmon has got so many benefits during pregnancy. Just make sure that it's cooked thoroughly to reduce listeria risk and limit your intake to a maximum of 3 times per week so that you don't end up with mercury toxicity. Finally, my first place goes to milk. Research has found that women who consume less than 600 milligrams of calcium per day have an increased risk of developing preeclampsia. Now, milk is one of the richest sources of calcium, providing approximately 300 milligrams per glass. Now, we need to be aiming for around 1,000 milligrams per day, but I see many women who get a fraction of this. Now, if you choose to drink plant-based alternatives, ensure that they are fortified with calcium, as they don't contain as much natural calcium as animal-based alternatives do. Or speak to your dietitian about whether or not you need a calcium supplement. Or better still, eat salmon with the bones, which is an amazing source of both omega-3 and calcium. Then you could serve it with broccoli on the side. Perfect! Now, one final thing. Having a high body mass index is one of the biggest risk factors for preeclampsia. So if you're watching this before pregnancy, I'd encourage you to optimise your weight as much as possible before you conceive. And if you're already pregnant, again, try to optimise your pregnancy weight gain by eating as healthily as possible. If you do need help, I'd strongly encourage you to speak to a prenatal dietitian because, as I always say, the lead up to conception, during pregnancy, and during breastfeeding is the most important time in your life for eating well, as it doesn't just impact upon your health, but upon your babies too. Now, I personally provide virtual consultations, or I'd be happy to recommend a suitable colleague. Feel free to post any questions that you have in the chat box below, And if you haven't already done so, make sure that you subscribe so that you get my weekly tips. And I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Okay, take 2. Take it 3.